This is crazy. It's the mid-1660s. A plague is wiping out London, and universities are sending everyone home. For most people, this was terrifying. But for one guy, a student in his 20s named Isaac Newton, this was the moment he became a legend. Historians call it his year of wonders, but I'm calling it the most insane productivity hack ever. He didn't just survive the pandemic, he went into a state of super intense focus. He locked himself away in his childhood home and working for days on end, built a fortress of pure solitude. In that quiet room, with nothing but books and his own insane thoughts, he invented calculus, figured out his theories on light, and discovered the laws of gravity. Think about that. He had no teachers, no classes. He was completely self-taught, with nothing but his own crazy curiosity. Now, what if I told you I could give you Newton's secrets, that you could use them to master literally anything, achieve your biggest goals, and unlock a level of focus you didn't even know you had? And here's the best part. What if you could do it without working 18-hour days, hiding from the world, and having a complete mental breakdown like he did? That's what we're breaking down today. This is the Newton method, adapted for you, and we're starting right now. The first thing you have to do is build a fortress. I'm not even kidding. The foundation of Newton's genius was insane isolation. When he was forced to leave college, he went home and built an environment with zero distractions. This wasn't just a quiet room. He designed his entire life around deep, unbroken focus. Away from his friends and his old routines, his brain was free to just go. His biographer said he spent 2 years solitary and almost incommunicado. In our world, that sounds impossible, right? Your phone is blowing up. You have a million notifications, DMs, emails. The world is designed to distract you. But the rule is still true. Deep work demands a sacred, interruption-free space. So how do you build a modern fortress of solitude? First, go absolutely psycho on your digital world. This is non-negotiable. Turn off every single notification on your phone and computer that isn't absolutely critical. And don't just put your phone on silent. I want you to yeet it into another room. Scientists have literally proven that just seeing your phone makes your brain dumber. Your brain knows all those distractions are right there, and it saves some of its power just in case you give in. Don't let it. Second, define your physical fortress. For Newton, it was his little study. For you, it could be a desk, a corner of your room, a library, anywhere. The point is to have one spot where your brain knows, when I'm here, it's go time. No multitasking, no social media, no quick checks. This is a single tasking zone only. Third, put it on the calendar. Newton had a plague give him 2 years. You don't, but you can schedule blocks of deep work. Start small. Can you find 60 minutes a day? 1 hour where you are 100% unreachable? Treat this appointment with yourself as seriously as a final exam. This isn't about becoming a hermit. It's about realizing that in a world of constant noise, disconnecting is a superpower. Newton's genius didn't come from just being smart. It came from his ability to protect his brain from all the chaos. To do your best work, you have to build the walls first. Newton's focus was absolutely legendary. Biographers say he would get so lost in his work that he'd forget to eat or sleep, sometimes working 18 hours straight. He would lock onto one problem and would not let go. He literally said, "I keep the subject constantly before me and wait till the first dawnings open slowly by little and little into a full and clear light." Just let that sink in. I keep the subject constantly before me. He was obsessed. And what do? The exact opposite. We multitask like it's a sport. Answering emails on a Zoom call, scrolling TikTok while watching a lecture, texting while writing a paper. We think it's productive, but you're just shattering your focus into a million useless pieces. Every time you switch tasks, a piece of your brain gets left behind. It's called attention residue. So if you're writing an essay and you quickly check Instagram, congrats. Part of your brain is still thinking about that meme you just saw. You are not fully focused. Newton knew this. He knew the only way to solve huge problems was to give them 100% of his mind. He didn't just dip his toes into a subject, he dove in head first. An assistant said Newton almost never went to bed before 2 or 3 in the morning because he was so completely absorbed. The modern version is simple, single tasking. When you sit down to work, commit to one thing, just one. If you're reading, just read. No phone on the table. If you're coding, just code. This is way harder than it sounds. Your brain has been trained to want new, shiny distractions, and it will scream at you to open a new tab. This is where discipline comes in. When you feel that urge, just notice it and pull your focus back to the one thing that matters. A great way to build this focus muscle is the Pomodoro technique. Set a timer for 25 or 50 minutes and promise yourself you will only work on that one task. Then take a real break. Get up, walk around, then do it again. Newton's genius wasn't a lucky break. It was the slow, patient, relentless application of focus on one single point until it cracked. He said it himself, "If I have ever made any valuable discoveries, it has been due more to patient attention than to any other talent." Your attention is the most valuable thing you have. Stop giving it away. So when Newton got to college, they were all teaching ideas from the ancient philosopher Aristotle. But Newton wasn't the kind of guy to just accept things. He questioned everything. He had this famous notebook where he wrote down certain philosophical questions. In it, he didn't just write down what other people thought. He tore every idea down to its smallest, most basic parts. He wasn't learning what to think. He was teaching himself how to think. This is the secret. Thinking from first principles. Thinking from first principles means you break a problem down into its most basic fundamental truths, and then you build your own solution from there. Newton used this to destroy centuries of wrong science. Take his work on light. Everyone believed that white light was pure and that colors were just some weird modification of it. Newton was like, but is that really true? Through his prism experiments, he split sunlight into a rainbow, and then, this is the 500 IQ move, he used a second prism to merge the rainbow back into pure white light. He broke the problem of color down to its absolute basic element, light. He proved white light wasn't fundamental at all. It was made of all the other colors. He didn't just tweak an old idea, he shattered it and built the correct one from scratch. He did the same thing with gravity. He didn't ask how to improve the old theory. He asked, what is this invisible force that pulls an apple down and holds the moon in the sky? So how do you use this? Whenever you're learning something, fight the urge to just Google how-to guides. Instead, ask, what are the absolute truths here? What are the fundamental building blocks? If you're learning to code, don't just memorize commands. Ask, what is a variable, really? What is a function at its core? If you're studying history, don't just memorize dates. Ask, what were the raw human emotions driving these events? Fear, greed, love? This is harder. It takes way more brain power. But it's the difference between following a recipe and becoming a master chef who understands chemistry. Newton didn't follow the map. He questioned it and drew a brand new one. Newton took an insane amount of notes, but these weren't just for remembering stuff. They were tools for thinking. He had a giant notebook he called his waste book, a name that tells you everything. This wasn't for his perfect final ideas. It was a messy, chaotic sandbox where he could waste ink to find a breakthrough. It was in this wastebook that he figured out the basics of calculus. He didn't solve it in his head and then write it down. He figured it out on the page. His notes are a mess of drawings, questions, and failed attempts. The notebook was literally an extension of his mind, an external brain that could hold ideas too big and complex to juggle in his head. He didn't just take notes on books. He argued with them in the margins. He was wrestling with the ideas. This is the complete opposite of how most people take notes. We act like we're just trying to copy every word the teacher says, hoping we'll absorb it. That is the least effective way to learn anything. To learn like Newton, you have to treat note-taking like an act of creation. Here's how. First, always rephrase ideas in your own words. The act of summarizing and explaining forces your brain to actually understand it. Second, connect new ideas to things you already know. Ask yourself, what is this similar to? How does this connect to that thing I learned last week? Third, use your notes to ask better questions. Write down what you don't understand. What seems weird? What do you need to figure out next? I don't care if you use a notebook or an app. The principle is what matters. Your notes are not an archive. They are a laboratory, a place to be messy and have half-baked ideas. Stop trying to take pretty notes. Start taking powerful notes. Okay, real talk. There's a dark side to Newton's genius. His methods were powerful, but they cost him everything. The same obsession that led to his discoveries also led to a life of misery, paranoia, and at least one huge nervous breakdown. That is not the goal. The idea is to learn from his focus and apply it in a way that's healthy and sustainable. So how do we adopt the Newton method for today? First, sprints, not marathons. Newton's 18-hour workdays are a highway to burnout. Instead of an 18-hour nightmare, I want you to do 3 to 4 hours of intense, Newton-level deep work, broken into sprints. Use a timer for 60 to 90 minutes, then take a real break. Go outside, talk to another human. This rest is strategic. It's when your brain actually learns. Second, deliberately schedule fun and connection. Newton's isolation made him focused, but it also made him crazy. We are social creatures. You have to schedule social time, exercise, and hobbies just as seriously as you schedule your work. This is not optional. This is the antidote to the burnout that destroyed Newton. Third, collaborate and share your work. Newton was super secretive, hiding his discoveries for years because he was scared of criticism. This led to massive, ugly fights over who invented calculus. This is a huge mistake. In today's world, feedback is a gift. Share your work early. Talk about your ideas. It makes your thinking better and builds a team around you, something Newton never had. The ultimate lesson is balance. We can steal Newton's insane discipline and focus, but we have to mix it with what we now know about health and happiness. The goal isn't just to be a genius, it's to be a whole human who does genius-level work. Isaac Newton's story shows the unbelievable power of the human mind when it's truly focused. His quarantine became the moment that created modern science. You don't need a global pandemic to have your own year of wonders. You just need to be intentional with your attention. Thanks for watching. Now go build your fortress. This is P. Crazer. Let's build productivity systems that win daily.